Okay, so we're gonna start with chapter 1. I'm gonna go over some problems that are gonna help you prepare for the homework in MyLabs Plus. All the problems I cover here are problems directly from your workbook. So you will, what I recommend that you do is you study these problems that I'm gonna work here during this video, and then you on your own try the other problems that are in the workbook for every section, and that way you'll be prepared to do the homework assignments every week. So let's try. We're going to discuss adding and subtracting fractions first. So let's take a look at 5 over 6 minus 2/3. Okay, so we are going to subtract these two fractions. In order to do that, we need to find the least common denominator. So we look at 6 and 3, and so this has to be the number that this number needs to be the smallest number that goes into both 6 and 3 without a remainder, or a remainder equal to 0. So that would be 6, right? So we're going to change the second fraction by multiplying it by 2 over 2. And so that's going to give us 5 over 6 minus 2 times 2, that's 4. 3 times 2 equals 6. Now we can subtract because we have the same denominator. 5 minus 4 equals 1, and that's going to give us 1 over 6. And always reduce your fractions, the result, write it in lowest terms. Now I'm going to, this is just if you have, for example, two fractions, right? But what if we had 5 over 6 minus 2 over 3 plus 3 over 4? Let's try this one. Okay, this one, again, we're subtracting and we're adding, so you're gonna need to find the least common denominator. So you look at 6, 3, and 4. This time 6 is not gonna work because remember, all these numbers, 6, 3, and 4, they all need to go into this number with no remainder evenly, and it has to be the smallest number. So that's gonna be 12, right? So 12, because 6 goes into 12, 3 goes into 12, 4 goes into 12, and it's the smallest number that can accomplish that. So you're going to now have to change every single fraction, right? So we're going to multiply the first one by 2, the second one by 4, and the third one by 3. So we multiply all of those. And so that's going to give us 10 over 12 minus 8 over 12 plus 9 over 12. And then you're going to, you can write, we go from 3 fractions to 1. That's going to be 12 as a denominator. 10 minus 8 plus 9. 10 minus 8. Remember, you do this from left to right. 10 minus 8, because the order of operations between addition and subtraction is the order depends on which one shows up first from left to right. So 10 minus 8 is 2, plus 9 is 11, so this gives us 11 over 12. Now you always want to check to see if you can reduce, but this one you cannot reduce. That's it. Okay? So that is an example of a fraction that has, where you have subtraction and you have addition and you have more than 2 fractions, and we did one with only 2 fractions, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and consider more examples. Now suppose we have, I want to consider this example. Suppose we have 7 over 20 plus 11 over 30 minus 2 over 15. Okay, so here you want to look at, again, you're going to need to find the least common denominator. So we have numbers that are a little bit bigger, 20, 30, and 15. So which number will be the smallest number such that all three numbers, 20, 30, and 15, will go into this number evenly with remainder 0. So that's going to be 60, right? So we're going to multiply each fraction. The first one by 3. The second one by 2. And the third one by 4. Okay? So just keep an eye on your work. Make sure that you keep an eye on not be careful, because it's easy to make mistakes when you're dealing with more than 2 fractions. So here, this one, you know, 3, because you want 60, so this one you need 2, and then so it's 4. Okay, so then you multiply, so it's going to be 21 over 60 plus 22 over 60 minus 8 over 60, right? Sorry about this number. And so that's going to give us 21 plus 22 minus 8 divided by 60. Okay. 21 plus 22 minus 8 over 60, which when you do the math here and you add 21 plus 22, that's going to give you 40, that's going to give you 43, right? And then minus 8 is going to give us 35 over 60, which this can reduce to, if you take 7, what is it, 5? Right, I think 5. 5 goes into 35. 5 goes into 35 7 times, and 5 goes into 60 12 times. So this reduces to 7 over 12. Okay? All right. Now, that is a fraction problem with more than 2 fractions. This one has 3, just like the previous example. And then it has addition and subtraction. Okay? Now let's do one where we have multiplication. I want to do one with, let's multiply now. So we consider addition and subtraction. Now we're going to do multiplication. For multiplication, you don't need a least common denominator, so we have 22 divided by 45 times 5 over 11. Let's do this one. And always try to simplify the fraction. Try to simplify the fraction. Let me lower this a little bit, because so you can see. I need to keep an eye on the screen, I'm sorry. But so that's here. Always try to simplify the fraction if possible before you continue with the multiplication problem, because the way you multiply fractions is you multiply numerators and denominators, 22 times 5, 45 times 11. But if you can, we can do something called diagonal diagonal reduction, which is a process that simplifies a fraction significantly. For example, you can say, you take a look at 5 and 45 and say, well, 5 goes into 5 once, and 5 goes into 45 9 times. Similarly, 11 goes into 11 once, and 11 goes into 22 2 times, right? This is only done with multiplication, and it can be done with division once the division problem changes to a multiplication problem. And then you multiply numerator times numerator, so 2 times 1 equals 2, 9 times 1 equals 9. And this one is the simplified result already. The result is in the most simplified form that you can have. So that's going to be 2 over 9. Okay? Alright, so that one, wanted to consider this one for you guys. And then I'm going to consider another one, because the homework problems have questions that have mixed numbers in them. So you have like something like 12 and 1/2 multiplied by 3 3/5. Let's do this one. So the way you multiply mixed numbers, you first have to change the mixed number to an improper fraction. So you're going to do that. 12 times 2 equals 24. You're going to multiply 12 times 2, that's 24. Then you add 1, that's 25, divided by 2. You always keep the denominator. And remember, you're multiplying. 3 times 5 equals 15, plus 3 equals 18, right? So 18 over 5. And then use the trick I showed you about the diagonal simplification. So 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 18 9 times, 5 goes into 5 once, 5 goes into 25 5 times, and then you just do 5 times 9 equals 45. 1 times 1 equals 1, so 45 over 1 equals 45. And that way you can get the most simplified result. Okay? So that's a mixed number. Okay. So we did those two. Let's go ahead and do some division. Fractions with division. So suppose we have 6 over 5 divided by 4 over 7. This one, when you're dividing, this one is going to change to a multiplication problem. And the way to do that is you're going to invert the second fraction, meaning you're going to take the reciprocal of the second fraction. So instead of writing 4 over 7, you're going to write 7 over 4. So it's going to be 6 over 5 times 7 over 4. And then once you have that, you can simplify diagonally first, because it makes it easier, right? So 6 and 4 can be reduced. 2 goes into 4 twice, and 2 goes into 6 3 times. 3 times 7 equals 21. 5 times 2 equals 10. And this will give us 21 over 10. All right? Excellent. Okay. Very good. So always remember to follow. These problems are going to help you if you understand the techniques I'm covering here in the videos. It's going to make it a lot easier for you to do the homework in MyLabs Plus. I recommend that you practice on your own additional problems from the workbook. So use these as a model, and then on your own practice more. So if you have a mixed number, remember, always turn it into an improper fraction first, and then you either add, or you subtract, or you multiply, or you divide. Okay, but always, for example, if you have a mixed number such as 7 over 3/4, and you need to subtract 4 and 1/3, another mixed number, don't try to just first change this. This is going to give us 7 times 4 is 28, plus 3, 31, right? So it's going to be 31 over 4 minus 4 times 3 equals 12 plus 1 equals 13 over 3, right? Then you're going to, from here, change this so that you have a common denominator, the least common denominator, correct? Let me raise the paper a little bit. And then to do that, you multiply 4 times 3, 3 times 4, correct? And then you go ahead and multiply. This is going to be 3 times 1. Multiply the two fractions here. That's going to be 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 93 divided by 12 minus 52 over 12. And that's going to give us, when you do this, and it's okay if you need a calculator, feel free to use one. 93 minus 52 gives us 41, right? Divided by 12. Now, if you want to write this as a mixed number, you can. You can just simply write this. How do you? Oh, well, that's a good. How do I write a mix? How do I write an improper fraction into a mixed number? Well, you can divide. Now, I think that MyLabs Plus will take this answer, right? But in case you need to change it to a mixed number, if you have a 41 12 and you need to change it to a mixed number, you carry out the division problem, 41 divided by 12, and that's going to be 12 goes into 41 3 times, right? So that's going to be 36. You take, so that's going to give us, the way to write the answer here is going to be 3 and 5/12. Okay? So just, you know, I wanted to cover that in case you need to go from improper to mixed or from mixed to improper. Now you know how to do both. Okay? All right. So moving forward here with more problems, let us consider some of the, you have a section of sign and numbers. So I'll do a few problems, but you have, remember, this is the calculator that I recommend you use. So when you go through the syllabus, I go through, there's a video done by my colleague, Mr. Trotman, and he explains how to use this calculator. This is an awesome calculator. It's gonna make it a lot easier for you guys. If you get your hands on one of these, they're not expensive. TI-30XS, and there's a video in the course in Canvas. When you access your course, there's a video done there by Mr. Trotman, my colleague, and he shows you how to use this calculator. I do recommend this calculator. So I do allow you to use this one for the exams. You know, you can use this one. So for example, if we have questions such as suppose you need to do the following problem: -5 plus parentheses -8. What does that equal, right? Well, right here, I mean, if you use a calculator, it's going to be super easy, right? I mean, you can say, you know, you put -5, right? Plus, and then I'm going to add a parentheses, -8, and then you have the answer, -13. Now, but what if you don't have a calculator? How would you answer this question? It's very simple. I mean, you're adding two negative numbers. So if you look at the number line, you know, on the number line, remember you have 0 and then you have the negative numbers on this side, right? You have the negative numbers on this side and you have the positive numbers. I'm going to put negative and positive. So if you begin at -5, you're on the left side of 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're here, -5. But if you're adding another negative number, you're moving to the left more, another eight spaces, right? So you have, okay, another 8. So it's going to be -5 and then 8 spaces to the left. That's going to put us at -13, right? So this is how I think of this as money. If you have a negative balance on your checking account and you have another negative balance added to it, if you make you have a negative balance of $5 and you make a withdrawal of 8, it's going to put you at -13, right? So I always tell the students, think of this as if you had money, if you're dealing with money, it makes it a lot easier to look at this and understand it. Now, what if you had, let's do another one where you have, for example, something like -3 minus 6. Now, this is different, right? Because it looks different. I don't have the plus. However, you're still moving in the same direction. You still have -3 and then another -6. So really, it's the same situation. You have -3 and then -6. That's going to put you at -9, right? But if you have, for example, let's do one where you have a -2 and then you're having a +4, let's say. So here you're at -2. If you look at the number line, right, you're going to be at -2, but now you're moving in the opposite direction, 4. So you're going to move to the right 4 places, so it's going to put you at +2, right? Because you go 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to put you at +2. So that one is moving in the opposite direction, right? Now what if you have -4 minus -6? Notice you have the double negative here. What is this? Well, this is going to be the negative, they're going to cancel each other, and so really what you have, -4 plus 6. You have a -4 plus, because the negative becomes plus, and so then that means that that's going to put you at +2, because you're at -4 and then you move 6 to the right, it's going to put you at +2. Okay? So I just briefly wanted to go over sign numbers in case you need to you want to do this by hand, right? Because you get the option of either doing this by hand or with the calculator. It really doesn't bother me. Whatever you feel more comfortable with, I am fine with that. Okay, let me lower the paper. Now I'm gonna try to make these videos not too long, because like I said, these are just introduction videos to the sections, and so but enough problems that will help you do well on the homework. Okay, what if we the order of operations, remember the order of operations, let's briefly cover those. Order of operations, this is important. This is, I always write, PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Okay, now when it comes to multiplication and division and addition of subtraction, the order depends. Which one comes first depends on which one shows up first from left to right. So if multiplication appears first from left to right, you do multiplication first. But if division appears first from left to right, you do division. Okay? So for example, I'm going to consider a very long problem so that I think it's going to help you. It's going to help you understand the order of operations. So suppose you want to not solve, but evaluate or work the following problem. You have 6 times 0.7 minus 0.2, and I'm doing a problem, all these problems from the workbook, and then 11 minus 3 in a bracket, and then close parentheses 2, and then this is divided by negative 1.3 minus 0.5, okay? So here you definitely want to use a calculator, right? Now what I would do here, we're going to follow the order of operations, and you're going to work from the inside out. So basically you go inside the parentheses, right? And you're going to go ahead and simplify the parentheses that shows up. You go from the inside out. So 11 minus 3, that equals 8. So basically I'm going to write 0.7 minus 0.2. This one is 8, right? So you write 8. And then close parentheses, square, divided by. And you can simplify that parentheses as well, which is negative 1.3, right? And then minus 0.5, which gives you negative 1.8. Okay. Still, working from the inside out, your parentheses comes first, right? So you're going to take negative 0.2 times 8, right? So you take 0.2 times 8, right? That's going to give you negative 1.6. So you have 6 times 0.7 minus 1.6, right? Notice how I take care of this first. And that's still being squared, divided by negative 1.8. Now go ahead and simplify the inside of this parentheses, 0.7 minus 1.6, which gives me negative 0.9. You're squaring that, right? Divided by negative 1.8. Now, we're done with parentheses because there's nothing to simplify inside the parentheses. So you're going to now go to the next item on the order of operations, and that's going to be exponents, right? So we did parentheses, now exponents. The exponents, we have negative 0.9. A negative raised to the second power is going to become positive. So you have 0.9 raised to the second power, right? So you raise it to the second power, which gives us 0.81. So it's going to be 6 times 0.81 divided by negative 1.8, right? Now the question is, do I divide first or do I multiply? Well, from left to right, multiplication comes first. So I'm going to multiply, right? I'm going to multiply 6 times 0.81, which is going to be 4.86. And then I'm going to divide this by negative 1.8, which is going to give me negative 2.7 as the answer. Okay? So this one, I ran over this one because it goes through the order of operations, right? And it's a good problem to consider. Okay. Let us now go to another topic that you will encounter. This one is exponents. So for example, say you want to simplify. I want to show you the difference between negative 3 raised to the second power and then parentheses negative 3 parentheses raised to the second power. Very different. Very different. This one, what's being raised to the negative 3, oh, please forgive me, there we go. So negative, and then 3 to the second, and then parentheses negative 3 parentheses raised to the second power. These are two different problems. They look the same, but they're not. Without a parentheses, this negative sign means that you're taking negative 1 times 3 squared. So that's going to give me negative 1 times 3, which is going to give me negative 9, right? versus negative 3 squared. In parentheses means that you're raising negative 3 to the second power, which means that you're multiplying two negative numbers together, which is going to give us a positive answer. So just don't confuse the two. Very different. Okay? All right. So that is the first part of chapter 1. The next part of chapter 1 is going to take us to, we're going to do a little bit of, we're going to evaluate some expressions, and then we're going to simplify some expressions. So for example, suppose I want to evaluate 2 over x minus 1 over 3, and I'm given a value for x. X is equal to 7, which basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace x with 7. So this is going to change to 2 over 7 minus 1 over 3. And then you're going to follow the approach that we followed. Remember that we have, what do we have to do? We need to find the least common denominator. So the smallest number such that both 7 and 3 will go into this number with no remainder. That's going to be 21. So you're going to change the first fraction to, you're going to multiply 7 by 3 and the 2 as well. And then you're going to multiply 3 by 7, 1 as well. This is going to become 6 over 21 minus 7 over 21, which then you can write 6 minus 7 is going to give you negative 1 over 21, right? So that would be the answer to that. Okay? So you have some problems that deal with that. All right. And the next and last topic of chapter 1 deals with simplifying algebraic expressions. Basically, the way you do that is like terms, you add and you subtract like terms. What is a like term? So we add and subtract like terms. For example, like terms have the same variable and exponent. Some examples of like terms are 3xy and xy, right? Because these both have the same variable xy and the same exponent. Another example could be 5x squared and 7x squared. Okay, xyz and 3xyz. Okay, those are some examples. Now, not like terms, be very careful. You can have xy and xyz. These are different, right? Because xy and xyz, this second term has a third variable, right? So these are not like terms. So we can add and subtract like terms. Okay? If they're not like terms, we cannot combine them or add or subtract. So suppose you want to simplify something like 3x squared plus 4x squared. These are like terms, so I can add them. And it's like adding real numbers. 3 plus 4, that's equal to 7. So that's going to give us 7x squared. No problem. So what if I have 3x squared plus 4y? Well, I cannot do anything here because they're not like terms. So that's as much as, if there's a question where it says, simplify, well, that's it. That's the most simplified form, right? So you will type this again. If that's all you can do, you will type it again, right? That's it. Say you want to simplify 5x squared minus 6xy plus y squared plus 5y. Let's see. So what is a like term here? Nothing, right? 5x squared doesn't have a like term. 6xy doesn't have a like term. Y squared doesn't have a like term, and 5y. So that's it. And so be careful there, right? And now let's talk about the distributive property. Sometimes you want to simplify something like 7 times 3x plus 5. This one you need to apply the distributive property, which means that you're going to multiply every term inside the parentheses by the number outside the parentheses. So 7 times 3x, right? You multiply 7 times 3x, that's going to be 21x. And then plus 7 times 5, that's 35. Okay, that's using the distributive property. What if you have 2x minus 4y and then times 5? Well, the same thing. You take 2x times 5. In other words, the number outside the parentheses, you're going to multiply. Well, they're both in parentheses. So you take each number. You can start from the left. 2x times 5. That's going to be 10x. And then negative 4y. Don't forget the sign. Negative 4y times 5. That's negative 20y. Okay. That's one example there. And let's try another one. So what if you have something more complicated, like y times 3y minus 8 minus 2 times y squared plus 6, right? Plus 3 times, and then 2, and then another parenthesis inside 5y minus 4, right? Like another parenthesis minus 6, close parentheses. Okay, so we're gonna start with this parenthesis here following the order of operations. So you're going to apply the distributive property here. 2 times 5y is 10y. 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. And then the negative 6, you just bring this down, negative 6. Close the parentheses, right? And just check to make sure you did everything right. 2 times 5y, 10y. 2 times negative 4, negative 8. And then the negative 6, you don't multiply the negative 6 by 2 because that's not inside the parentheses. Negative 6 is not inside the parentheses. And then you write the 3 here. And then everything else. Bring everything else down. Okay. Go ahead and simplify. Don't forget the plus here. Simplify inside this parentheses. This is going to be 10y minus 8 minus 6 is minus 14, right? Going to multiply by 3 and then bring everything else down. Right? And go ahead now, apply the distributive property to each parentheses. Y times 3y, that's going to be 3y squared. Y times negative 8, negative 8y, right? Negative 2 times y squared, negative 2y squared. Negative 2 times 6, negative 12. 3 times 10y, 30y. 3 times negative 14, negative 42. And then go ahead and simplify whatever you can. The like terms, these are like terms, so 3y squared minus 2y squared is 1y squared. You don't write 1y squared, you just write y squared. And then minus 8y plus 30y, that's going to be plus 22y, right? And then minus 12 minus 42, that's going to give us minus 54, correct? Minus 54. And so that's the answer, y squared plus 22y minus 54. And so we cover problems from chapter 1. I'm going to end the video here because it's already 33 minutes and 28 seconds. So I'm going to upload this to the Canvas page, and it will also be available on YouTube. And so, all right. Well, thank you guys, and I will continue to make these videos for every section, so make sure you watch them. You can watch them as many times as you need to. All right. Take care.